We good? Hold on, let's see here. I'm gonna turn this up a little bit and see if I'm on. I'm gonna say something. Blah 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 blah. I'm gonna say something. Blah blah. All right. What is up, guys? It's MegaManChiefFan here, and oh boy, that is not. That is way too slanted. What is up, guys? It's MegaManChiefFan here. Welcome back to another video or live stream type thing, and yay, we're back. I just gotta send the word out. All right, so how is everybody doing? I know there's nobody here right now because it's like 3:30 on a Saturday afternoon who would watch a live stream. But anyway, let me just check for some other things. While everybody's getting on, I'm gonna just check a couple more things. Oh yeah, and also so what this live stream will be consisting of is I'm pulling up Goodreads right now because I'm going to try to talk about a lot of the books that I've been reading because I've been reading a lot. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm talking a lot about what's going on, like, and also, excuse me, I just like woke up from like a 45-minute nap, and I'm like, yeah, let's do a live stream because I did not do a live stream last week, or did I? I think I did, but it's been over a week since I've done my last live stream. So hopefully this one goes as well as the first one did, because the first one went fantastically. And yeah. So with that out of the way, oh my god, there's still nobody watching. Yikes. You guys are slacking. All right, so what we're going to be doing today is I'm just going to be giving a quick ramble about all the books that I'm going to be reading, that I have read, and I'm going to be reading. So anyway, I just got to put my phone away. Books! Yay, Brandy, you're on. So what I'm going to be doing, it is strangely quiet in the dorms. So I don't know what's going on, but because it's not quiet hours at all, it's like, why would you be quiet on a 3:30 in the afternoon? But anyway, I'm going to be just rambling on about the books that I've read recently, because I've read a lot of good books and a lot of bad books as well. So hopefully this will be good. And yeah, literally, I have these are the 3 books I have with me. The rest of them were library reads. But anyway, let's get into this. Ooh. There we go. There's the good snaps. What do you guys want to hear about first? I'm gonna give you I'm gonna give Brandy a choice between okay, so what do you want to hear about first? Do you want to hear about Toni Morrison, or do you want to hear about eyes, or do you want to hear about horses? All right, eyes, or horses, because I can do either. Because, ooh, that means I can pull out another one. Second one, awesome. Because this book is was in my box that I'm going to donate, because this is Seabiscuit by Laura Hillenbrand. And if you have this copy, oh my god. Oh, it smells so much like a book. I don't know how else to describe it, but it has that old book smell. So, yeah, this book was good, but it's not good enough for me to say, oh my god, this is the greatest thing in the entire world. It's just, it was just okay. It was very well written, very well researched. But the problem with this book is that I don't care about horse racing. Like, I don't care about and Laura Hillenbrand did it really, unlike her second book, Unbroken, which made me fascinated with like track and field. This really didn't make me interested in horse racing. It just wasn't as passionately written, or at least that's what it rubbed off to me as. But the Seabiscuit, it was good writing, good research, just not a topic I would usually read about, and I think that was the big killer. I usually like to go out of my comfort zone, but yeah, this wasn't the best, but it was good. If you're interested in that type of stuff, I do really recommend it. It's one of the most famous nonfiction books of the 21st century for a reason. And then I'm gonna get these the books that I own out of the way. Then I'm gonna do the books that I have that I read from the library. I'm gonna ramble them off as well, and I'm gonna show you the couple books that I have to read over Thanksgiving break. So the next two are plays. Plays usually are very excuse me. Plays usually are hit and miss for me. Like I've read the last time I had a major stretch of reading plays, it was very miss. Like I did not read a single good play. But this, or at least one that blew me away. This first play is like, it's good. It had great parts, but it also didn't have like, oh my god, this is the greatest thing ever type vibe. You know what I mean? It wasn't like amazing. So anyway, it's called Anna in the Tropics by Nilo Cruz, I think is how you pronounce his name. Nilo Cruz. This is a play about so this is set in like 1920. Okay, it says on the back 1929 Florida, and it's about like this Cuban American cigar company. So like Shakespeare, not the best, but not bad. Shakespeare is amazing, but yeah, pretty much if you want to put it like that. So, but yeah, Anna in the Tropics. This is a play centered around a Cuban American cigar factory, and while the workers are hand rolling their cigars, they have a lector who reads to them while they work, and the story starts when there's a new lector coming to the factory to read Anna Karenina, and the rest goes from there. It transforms the factory workers' lives, including the family that owns the factory. Okay, so I'm gonna split this up into three parts: the first act, the second act, and the last scene. The first act was good-ish, but it didn't blow my mind like I thought it was going to. That's what the second act did. The first scene in Act 2 is easily the longest and best scene in the entire play. There was literally some scenes that were like the equivalent of like 4 pages of script, and it felt like ages, while this scene was like 12 pages or like 15 pages, and it went by like that. It was so engrossing, so engaging. And the other scenes that followed in the second act did not like disappoint whatsoever. I loved the second act of this play. And then the last scene kind of almost ruined it. This play finished so poorly. It rushes everything. It just like the fourth scene in Act 2 just ends on one of the ending of the play, but instead of like gradually wrapping things up, they just end it like that in like 3 pages. I'm like, what are you doing? This is, or more like 2.5. It's like, seriously, it was such a cop-out. It was so annoying to see such a great play end so poorly. But yeah, I didn't love Anna in the Tropics, but there was parts of it that I did absolutely adore. So I do recommend this, though it's pretty depressing. Just going to tell you that right now. Which is the exact opposite from this play, which is probably the funniest thing I've ever read in terms of like theater. And it's Noises Off by Michael Frayn. I think it's how I pronounce his name. Oh my god. If it wasn't for the fact that the first act was kind of like the first act, it takes a long time to get into it. Like it takes forever to get into this play. But once you get into it, it is a riot. I loved this play once it finally kicked into gear. There's pretty much the three acts of this play are like individual scenes. They're like really long, three really long scenes that make up an act. So there's like one really long scene and it makes up the act. So, and the second act, oh, I was nearly crying from how funny it was because it wasn't really because what you're seeing, it's hard to explain without giving spoilers, but there's a lot of them blocking. There was a lot of them physical comedy instead of just like saying words because there's I'm just gonna say it for right now, but like there's a play going on. They have to be silent. I won't say anything else but that. But yeah, it's especially if you're into theater or like did theater in high school. This is a must read. This or like a must watch. I may like send like out or link the performance that I watched because the performance that I viewed on YouTube of this play was phenomenal. So hopefully you guys check this out because this play is hilarious. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. And then finally for like the books that I have with me that I've read is The Book of M by Peng Shepherd. And much like Noise is Off, I absolutely loved this. This is what I'm okay, so my favorite form of sci-fi novel is post-apocalyptic. But the problem is that my least favorite is dystopian. And I know that kind of gets people confused, but like when I want a post-apocalyptic story, I don't really like the idea of like, oh, we're going to control you. There's like a upper force controlling you. It's more like every man for themselves. That is exactly what this is, or like for the most part. But let me just say it's not a dystopian. It's pure post-apocalyptic. Every man for themselves. It starts so what this story centers on is that it is an entire story. The dystopian or the post-apocalyptic aspect of this novel is that there's one day a man in India loses his shadow, and then with that he slowly rots over like the course of like 2 weeks until he pretty much unintentionally kills himself because he was just so eroded as a human being. Hi, Abby. Anyway, yay, we have another person. So the disease that this world version of our world goes through is a form called the forgetting. Is the forgetting, not forgetting. That's great grammar, Graham. My name is literally in the word grammar. I should be getting these things right. But the forgetting, that's what this process of losing your shadow and memory and slowly eroding till you're dead process is called. But yeah, I freaking loved this. There's multiple storylines that go through in with each other. They thread very well and become more and more neatly woven together as the book goes on. It kind of experiments a little bit, but it doesn't go like full on experimental. It just does some little things here and there that makes it unique. And I loved that. I love it so much. And but I have a whole yes, grammar. That's me. But anyway, the Book of M, I loved this. I loved this so much. I highly recommend it. But though it is a long book, it's almost 500 pages, but I loved it. It's phenomenal. And now we're getting to the books that I don't have physical copies of, so I'm just going to use like hand gestures for everything. So the first book that I want to talk about is The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison. I read 2 Toni Morrison books recently, which are The Bluest Eye and Sula, Sula, S-U-L-A. So The Bluest Eye, I loved. I thought it was fantastic. I didn't love it as much as like the as a Beloved. Why did I forget that? That's literally one of the best books that I've read so far this year. But I loved Beloved, and I also really like The Bluest Eye. The Bluest Eye is a odd coming of age story, and it centers around these it focuses on three young black girls, and they're growing up in like the 1940s, I think is when it was set in. But it was phenomenal. The way that she writes, she has a grip of her writing from the very start of her career. If you don't know, The Bluest Eye is Toni Morrison's debut novel. I love it. I love her writing. While the story wasn't as like gripping as Beloved was, I thought that oh goodness, I thought The Bluest Eye was just fantastic with its writing. I really, really like the character Piccola because I just feel she was so interesting. She was interesting in the way that Beloved was interesting as well. She wasn't likable, but she wasn't hated either. She was just fascinating as a character. So that's why. So I really like that book. Sula, not so much. I really didn't like Sula. I thought Sula was just kind of pretentious, artsy, way too it focused way too much on imagery. And there was one scene, if you want to, I'm not going to repeat this scene because I already explained it in my Goodreads review. If you want to read my Goodreads review, I may also link that in when I post this on my live stream on just for the public to see. But there was one scene about like a third of the way through the book when it was in like flashback mode that I was purely disgusted by. Just thinking about it makes me like almost want to gag. It's not that bad, but like it is disgusting. And Toni Morrison does not she's not sensitive about the scene either. And it was the worst part of any Toni Morrison book, or just one of the most unnecessarily disturbing parts of any book I've read in a long time, if not ever. So, and I hate to say it, but technically, I liked Song of Solomon less because it was just so outrageous when it wanted to be. But I think as an overall product, I like Sula a little less than Song of Solomon. It was not good, like at all. I really didn't like it. So yeah, Sula not so good. Well, Beloved, yes, and but Bluest Eye also gets my thumbs up. Another book that I read. Ooh, I can also pull this out from the box of donated books because you can tell that I'm not going to give it a favorable review if I pull it from the box of books I'm going to donate or like sell off. And that is We by I only know how to pronounce this guy's last name. His last name is Zemyatin. I don't know how to pronounce his first name for the life of me. Yevgeny. I think it's actually Yevgeny. I don't know. But this book, it was one of the first, it was pretty much the first utopian dystopian to really hit the market. Or no, it was actually published really later because Russia. But it was written in the 1920s, didn't get published until like the 80s, like long after the book was written, and it kind of shows its age. In fact, it really shows its age. Like something like Brave New World, which pretty much was like this book sparked books like Brave New World in 1984. I think I even heard like Orwell was like this was the main inspiration for Orwell's 1984, which I can definitely see. I can definitely see this more being influenced on Brave New World. But while Brave New World, I'm not the biggest fan of Brave New World. Like everybody keeps freaking out about Brave New World. I don't hate it. I just don't like it either. But Brave New World, at least has really good writing. This doesn't. Yeah, I just feel like this was way too preachy and way too precious for its own shoes. It was it was a message. It was more of a message than a novel. And I can't stand it when books do that. So I'm not really the biggest fan of We. So back into the donation box you go. All right, let's check up on some other books that I need to talk about. That one literally I cannot. There's so many books I've already forgotten that I've read because I read so much that I'm like, or at least I'm like, I don't. If you want, here's a big reveal. Oh my goodness, celebrity reveal. I don't remember every book that I've read. Like, there's so many books that I've read that like I don't remember vivid details from every single one I've read, especially if I don't like it. If it's really bad, like Ulysses or The Old Man in the Sea, I will remember it because of how garbage it was. But books that are just bad and don't really leave any impact on me as a reader whatsoever, I just usually forget about in the blink of an eye. For example, I read the majority of, but technically it's a did not finish, but I literally read like 2/3 of the collection of The Unfinished World and Other Stories by Amber Sparks. Oh, here's another one. It's a library copy. It's just, the cover's beautiful, and I really like the first 2 stories, but then it gets to its first full-length story, and it falls apart. And then there's like a whole ton of like short stories, like 2 to 5 pages, or like 2 to 10 pages that were just pointless. And then by the time we got to the feature presentation, which was like a novella called The Unfinished World, I could not care less. I didn't read the last novella. I'm going to be perfectly honest. I stopped. It was not impressing me at all. And same thing can be said about the next one, but the only thing is that I did read everything from this collection. A Manual for Cleaning Women by Lucia Berlin. Okay, so if you guys know don't judge a book by its cover. Exactly, Brandy. Thank you. But A Manual for Cleaning Women, which has like a cover that with like a room key on it. It was okay. There was a couple stories that kind of worked because her writing style itself is not terrible. There was one story that I really liked from this collection about this young girl who gets suspended from this really strict Catholic school, and as punishment has to spend the summer being like an intern or working for her grandfather who's a dentist, and everybody hates her grandfather. That story really was good. I like that. The problem, this is 400 pages of short stories. There's like at least like 40 stories in this collection. Maybe 5 of them worked. There were so many stories that were just awful that don't really count as stories. Like, there's some stories that were like 1 or 2 pages, and I'm like, how do you construct a full-length narrative in this span of time? Like, why even write the story if you're barely going to create it in the first place? And that's why I just felt a lot of this collection was lazy. And I did not like that at all. So Lucia Berlin, probably not going to check out anything from her ever again. Just being flat out honest. Then we have oh boy, I finally get to talk about this book. Okay, Crossing the Stacy. Stacy's mom has got it going on. No. Crossing the Safety by Wallace Stegner. This is easily the best book I've read in the month so far. It is just beautiful. The first 2 pages of the book hooked me, automatically hooked me. I was blown away by this book. The only reason why it's very I get very critical when a book gets this good. So when there's a single flaw that a single flaw that's not just a minor nitpick, I do kind of judge it on that. But even though as awful as that sounds, but trust me, I loved this book, even though I didn't give it a 5 out of 5. The only reason why was that because it kind of dragged in the middle. And by dragged, I mean wasn't absolutely spectacular. There's just okay moments in this book, but when it hits, which was pretty much like 3/4 of the book, oh my goodness, it was so amazing. It was so amazing. It just blew my mind on how well Wallace Stegner's writing is. And granted, at this time, he was at the end of his career, so he was obviously very experienced. He had decades of experience writing novels, but it was just marvelous. I loved Crossing the Safety. And if you want to know another fun fact, the ending, the last third was so emotional that it made me cry. I'm not exaggerating. I'm gonna say it right out there. I shed a few tears when I read this book. It was just beautiful. Maybe it was because of the mood I was in, but also this book was just that powerful. So Crossing the Safety by Wallace Stegner. It was on my TBR for like over 2 years, and when I finally got around to it, I was not disappointed. I absolutely loved it. And let's see, what other novels do I have in here? I'm gonna talk about one more, and then I'm just gonna open it up to like what I'm gonna be reading. So the last book I've read out of this pile before I get to like the to read list is Passing by Nella Larson. This was a book that it was a small novella that I showed off in my first live stream. I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. Something that I've realized is that with me loving this novella and Beloved by Toni Morrison, I think my next wave of like my next literary obsession is going to be me just reading a lot of stuff from Black authors, because I feel like I don't really have a place to judge for me, because I don't know if you can tell, I'm as white as a fluffy cloud on a summer's day, but I do want to be more diverse with my reading, and there. So with that, hold on, my phone just buzzed. Abby, if you're still watching it, I own Super Fight. But yeah, Passing. It's about a Black woman who passes for being a white woman, and then her friend just continues living with fellow African Americans, and it just kind of shows the two distinct paths that they go on, and how one is more financially comfortable but is living a much more dangerous life, while it's just marvelous. It brings such a great message that it was so advanced in its message that I thought it was like written in like the 60s at the very earliest. It was written in 1928. It was so good. It was so good. The more I think about this novella, I think I like it more. And sadly, I only have one more work of hers to read because she barely wrote anything at all. She so about Nella Larson herself, she wrote like 2 novels, one novella, which was Passing, and one full-length novel called Quicksand, which I'll be reading very soon. And then for I don't know the reason why, but then afterwards she didn't write a single thing. She lived a prosperous life, or not I don't know much about her life afterwards. All I know is that she was like either teaching or a nurse. I don't remember which one it was until she died in the 1960s. And it makes me question what made her not write anymore. So I may dive into that a little more just to have a little knowledge behind my back. But Nella Larson, fantastic little novella. I loved it. And then we've got some more books that I'm going to show off that I'm going to be reading. And then I may just go off because there's not many people watching. Granted, that's a little my fault, but also I'm just having fun rambling on. So what I've read, so what I'm going to read is the very next book I'm going to be reading. I may even start this tonight if I have time. Flow My Tears, The Policeman Said by, and get this, Philip K. Dick. Because there's quite a few people that don't know much, that aren't booky like me that are watching, but Philip K. Dick is one of my favorite sci-fi authors. I absolutely love this author's work. I loved him. He wrote Man in the High Castle, if you've ever heard of that TV show. He wrote the book that was based on that TV show was based on. Let me rephrase that. And he also wrote Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, which is a novel that Blade Runner is based on, which is actually a movie that I had to watch for my English seminar this semester, which I liked, but I like the book a little better because book pretentious Graham is always present. But Flow My Tears, The Policeman Said, has a really cool concept. On October, here, let me just read the back and then tell me, and I dare you to, and just tell me how interesting this is. On October 11th, the television star Jason Taverner is so famous that 30 million viewers eagerly watch his primetime show. On October 12th, Jason Taverner is not a has-been, but a never was. A man who has lost not only his audience, but all proof of his existence. And in this claustrophobic betrayal state of Flow My Tears, the policeman said, loss of proof is synonymous with loss of life. I'm speechless. If this doesn't work, I will be mad. But I've loved pretty much everything I've read from Philip K. Dick so far, or at least liked it. So hopefully this doesn't disappoint me because it sounds fantastic. And it's also one of his more famous novels, so I can dig with that. And then this next book, I have shown off. If you're a longtime viewer of my channel, you know that I had this book on my bookshelf longer than any other book that I've not read. This is the book that I've had on my shelf the longest for where I've not read it. I've constantly said, oh, I got an email. It is an ad. Anyway, so it's 1,000 Splendid Suns by Khaled Hosseini. This is the same author as The Kite Runner, which is a book that I've read a long time ago and really liked. And I was planning on reading 1,000 Splendid Suns in 2016. It's almost the end of 2018, and I'm just now getting around to it. And the sad part is I keep picking this up thinking, oh, I'm going to read the entire thing. And then I read 10 pages. I'm like, I read the first chapter. I'm like, I think I'll like it, and then never touch it until the next time I try to pick it up. This time I'm actually going to try to sit down, read the whole thing. If I even need to read it over Flow My Tears, the policeman said, I will. I want to get this read. I'm in the mood finally to just sit down and read this. So yeah, really excited about this one. And then this next one is another one I've had on my shelf for a little while, nowhere nearly as long as 1,000 Splendid Suns, but hopefully I will get to this very soon. And that is The Crimson Petal and the White by Michelle Faber. I've read Michelle Faber's Book of Strange New Things, which I loved. But this, it's 900 pages. And I'm really craving a long book right now because I read the 500-page Book of M and loved it. So I'm like, what's 400 extra pages going to do? So yeah, I'm absolutely pumped to read this. So yeah, there's nothing much else to say. I think it's set in Victorian London. Yep, Victorian London is what it exactly says on the back. And the main character's name is Sugar. That's something. Oh. She's a prostitute. No comment. Anyway. So yeah, I'm just really excited to read this because I've been craving a big book lately. And I really like the first one that I read from Michelle Faber. He's a really good author, so hopefully I'll enjoy this chunker of a novel. And then finally, another book that I'm really excited to read is A Dreamer by Charles Johnson. If you don't know Charles Johnson, he wrote Middle Passage, which is so far the biggest surprise of the year for me. Besides Beloved, I loved Middle Passage. I thought it was fantastic. And this is a novel that's a lot less popular than Middle Passage, but it's it focuses on the last 2 years of Martin Luther King Jr.'s life, when the political and personal pressures on this country's most preeminent moral leader were the greatest. That's a direct quote from the back. I really am excited because I loved Middle Passage. I still think of it to this day. It's just Middle Passage is just this little slim thing, but yet I just think about it daily. Well, not daily. That's a little too far. That's like secret history levels. But Dreamer, but Middle Passage is a book I constantly think about. So hopefully Dreamer can live up to the reputation that Middle Passage set for me, because I loved Middle Passage. And with that, I think I'm going to end this because there's not really much I'm going to talk about. I just wanted to get some rambling done because I'm bored out of my mind. But anyway, I'm MegaManChiefFan, and I'll see you later, guys.